So Cara, there you go.
Okay, yeah, all right. So it's been a while since I've joined the River Collective Circle, so this is exciting. I'm basically gonna just drop a concept and then hold the space for us to just chat and talk about a big part of conservation that's often left out. So I'll share for like 10 minutes, maybe 5, just a presentation just to get us into what these terms even mean. And then we can just talk about our own relationship to rivers, our own communities, our own identities, and a big part of environmentalism that's often sort of shaped. So I'm going to share my screen. And use slideshow. Okay, so can everybody see this? Yeah, okay. So what I think that the Home River Bioblitz has that I feel a lot of other sort of ways to engage in environmentalism has is this like super diverse global community from people all over the world with different relationships to different rivers, with different threats, and they all sort of come together for the same fight. And that's what's so nice about the Home River Bioblitz. And there's this concept called intersectional environmentalism, which is basically an inclusive approach to environmentalism that advocates for both people and the planet. So often, let's say, you know, these concepts were sort of became really popular through Instagram by a Black feminist in the States. Her name's Leah Thomas. So a lot of these quotes are from her. But it's often that environmental movements, especially conservation and protection, fight for the preservation of land, water, air, biodiversity, but that fight doesn't serve all people equally and actually exacerbates issues for one group, for others. And the idea is that we want to be able to create an environmentalism approach and a philosophy the way we fight for our climate, for our rivers, in a way that doesn't reproduce already existing discriminations or violence even. And that's where the concept sort of comes from. So the idea of why it's important to start thinking about these things is that in each of our different riverscapes or in our environments, we each sort of build a relationship to the river differently. And our identity or positionality, which can be your gender, your religion, ethnicity, race, ability, class, even education, your nationality, all of these can intersect and therefore have an impact on your relationship to each other and to space. So the concept of intersectionality, if you have not heard it before, it actually is sort of very academic, but in sort of like a ground basis, the understanding is that your gender, so if you are a woman and you're of ethnicity or race that is of color and is not white or is indigenous, your gender and your race, so a Black woman is not only Black, she's also a woman, and you can't break these apart. My identity as a woman of color in Europe cannot be separated, and each of these identities creates a different relationship. The issue here is that we have institutions and often education, so in particular in natural sciences and conservation, in environmental engineering, we have institutions, we have organizations, we have laws and policies that don't necessarily recognize that different positionalities have access or experience differently, particularly with rivers. So a good example would be that I have a particular relationship with the river, but I live in a city and I am of middle class, and my experience or access to the Spree River here in Berlin is very different to actually very polluted areas in Germany of also very lower working class folks that have a completely different relationship to rivers. So the idea, I think, here is sort of just to create a space. I really think that each of us has their own sort of relationship, and I think it would be really nice to just explain who we are, which river we're from, and what our relationship is to the home river. And then we can, since we're such a small group, I wouldn't even go in breakout rooms. But I think it'd be a really good idea to just figure out, or just kind of talk about what our own positionality is to a river and how that might differ from other people that, for instance, in the river that you're going to do a home river Bioblitz session or leader, to see what that relationship is like. Because then I think if we begin to start breaking these up, we can also take this idea and these concepts or this awareness, and then we can sort of maybe perhaps find ways in how we can organize our home river bioblitzes that are happening in the near future to be more accommodating, and also to learn and unlearn certain things. So does anyone have any question about what we're talking about? Because there are some videos that are able to describe these concepts. However, they're very US-centric based, and maybe even other people have different resources. And that is something that we could then show. But has anyone ever had a discussion around the concept of intersectionality? Maybe Jens, you can.
Maybe for those folks that live in Latin America, for us it's very normal to hear discussions about environmental justice being always connected to social justice. So justicia socioambiental, it's the way we kind of talk about that in environmental movements in Chile, at least. So maybe that's also triggers, because intersectionality also is a concept that comes from the States, from the United States, from social sciences. So maybe it's a bit more historic concept that we understand here differently in Latin America. But yeah, so basically justicia socioambiental, lo ambiental, la justicia ambiental solo puede ser tal si es también social, or else it's an injustice. Environmental justice is always social, or else it keeps being injustice. Maybe we could put the questions down in the chat, and you stop sharing screen, Cara, and then if anybody has a question, you just make it, and then we go for this presentation that is so important to chat about, that who we are, where we are, and so on.
Yeah, so I think when last time we had this conversation, we talked a lot about diversity and inclusion. And then Jens had mentioned that it'd be really nice to just hear from other people, particularly, I guess we're 8 of us, so maybe we can do a breakout room. But it would be really nice to just hear about your community, which river you're from, and a big part of the Home River Bioblitz is also to get to know other folks that are fighting for the rivers. So I will put those in the chat. So there we go. What do you think, Jens? Should we break out, or should we do a big session?
I think we should just stay here.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think let's stay here. And I can start to give you an example, and then I throw my ball to other person, and we keep going. What do you say about that?
Yeah, sounds
cool.
Great.
So my name is Jens, and my pronouns are he and him. I'm from the Bio River, where I live at the moment. Actually, the river is just in front of my house. My relation to this home river is basically a kinship, meaning it's part of my family. I was born in front of this river. I was raised up in the river, by the river, swimming in the river, enjoying the river, also then understanding the threats and damages that has been done to the river. And also because of, I believe, of the Mapuche cosmovision in South Chile, an indigenous group that is very connected to ecosystems and other forms of life. I think I developed this idea of the river being my family, basically. I think it's also influence of conversations with other folks of other culture. And how are river relationships different to other communities in your home? I think we have mostly a gradient between cities and the countryside. That's very different the way we relate to river, and between Chileans, that see the river as an object, that must be subjugated to make energy or to just have as a landscape, to the Mapuche people, which we live here within South Chile, or the Gualmapu, where they see the river, as I said, like family, like kinship, and a relationship to them is a subject relationship, a relational relation. It's not that the river is an object that's just there, but it's a subject, a being, a person. So I think that's one of the biggest difference in this territory where I live. And now I throw my ball to Anna.
Hi, good morning or good afternoon. My name is Anna. My pronouns are she, her. I'm from the Rio Nazas. Rio Nazas is located in northern Mexico in the states of Coahuila and Durango. My relationship to the river is, well, I'm part of bird watching group. So we go every other weekend to the river and look out for the birds that are there. It's an important site for migration of the birds. So we like to go there and see how are the bird populations and keep track of that. Our river has a dam. So for example, here near my house goes the I don't know how to say in English, but it's supposed to flow the river in there, but we have no river. It is dry all the year because the river is dam, and they have channels to put the river through the for the crops, so they don't let the river flow just on one part of the city. So I grew up here. I grew up used to see the most of the river dry. I don't know if I'm explaining well, but it's not a free flow river just for one side where we usually go bird watching. So right now we had a lot of rain, so they put the river. There are parts where we are not used to see the river flow, that it is flowing right now, and it's been such a huge. I like to see it as I don't know, it's a celebration, because most of the people go and see where the river is flowing, and it crosses two different cities into different states, but we are very near, so we can see from one side and the other side. All the people go there and watching the river. So I hope that the water stays there so we can use it, or it will be beneficial for the time of the Bioblitz. So also the other question was, how are river relationships different to other communities? Well, we of course have the communities that live near the river. The communities that where the river is free flowing in the Cañón de Fernández site, and those people are used to go fishing, and sometimes they hunt the birds or do things like that. But well, they live there. Also, I should say, if you do not live near the river, you need a vehicle. It is not easy access for everyone. So that's something that we are trying to arrange, so the people that want to participate have access to there. And many people do not know the river except for, or I will say it's like a place for hanging out, like how do I say, like go there and just like a weekend, like have fun or something like that. But we are not really used to go and watch for yeah, like the birds or the fauna or the things that are around the river. So and also another thing that is different, I will say, that we are struggling to make this available for everyone is the internet access, because the communities near the river do not have internet access. So well, those are some things that we are struggling with. I don't know if there are any questions.
No, I think you make a really good point. So last year, access was also providing access to the home river Bioblitz is definitely like I think a logistic issue that we were talking about. I think it's also really good maybe to answer also that last question. So that Vera and Jens, who are some of the co-facilitators of this program, can actually also have a think about how also in the future to organize home river Bioblitzes to be also potentially more accessible, and I think all the same. So Anna, if you want to throw the ball to somebody.
Okay. To I will say Carla.
Carla. Yeah, and Carla, just real quick for anyone that has joined, there's in the chat, Jens has posted the questions. If you don't see them, just write, because then Jens can post it again. And then we're just going to throw the ball back and forth. So Carla, go for it. Maybe Carla's not there. Maybe we come back to you, Carla. Okay, so Miguel. Also, if you can turn your camera on just for that moment. Hi, Jeff. You're welcome to. If not, that's also fine. We hear your voice.
Hey, Jess.
Hi, Jens. Hi, Kara.
Hi,
Alice said she wants to anonymously
everyone.
listen. They're listening.
Okay, Miguel's not there. Eduardo, we know that you're there.
Edo, estamos a
Hey.
ustedes. Prende tu cámara, weón.
Right. All right. So I just woke up, so sorry for that. But all right. So I am Eduardo. My pronouns are he and him. I am from the Rio Cruces, here in Valdivia, in la región de los ríos, which is the river region here in Chile. My relationship to the river, I would say it's one out of it's a recent one. And it's I would say it's just out of love for planet and the people, and yeah, I wouldn't go like so much into it. It's kind of obvious for me just to love the river. I don't know if it's and how are river relationships different to other communities in your home? All right, so I live in the city and it's surrounded by rivers. So I would say here our relationship to the river is more of kind of touristy and blissfully ignorant. We live in this like blissful ignorance, so like image of the river, as in the sense that we don't see the struggle that goes down upstream, for example, with the dams and, well, yeah, especially the dams here in the Calle River. It's a big one. So here, yeah, I would say it's different in the sense that we do not have to live with the struggle that people live upstream. And also, how can you facilitate? I would say interesting way to facilitate or to make a Bioblitz more intersectional would just be to open spaces to talk, like, I don't know, after the Bioblitz, just talk, have a beer. I don't know. Share your experience and how your history with the river maybe translates into your how your history like kind of combines with your experience in the river. Yeah, and I would like to throw the ball to Antonio.
Thanks,
Are you there,
Eduardo.
Antonio? Thanks, Eduardo. Maybe he's not there. We never
Okay.
know when
Maybe
the
Jens,
camera
can you
is
read
off.
from the chat?
Oh yeah, of course. I can read the Sulaika's story, which is really powerful. Oh, we got more answers in the chat. Well, I will read for Sulaika if that is okay for you, Sulaika. Her name is Sulaika from Malaysia. Her pronouns are she, her. The river nearest to her is the Klang River, and her relationship with the river and the environment starts from her mother. She was an environmentalist as well, and Sulaika grew up following her mother's work, empowering the public and community, cleaning up rivers and planting trees every weekend. Wow, amazing. No, she's doing the same thing and loving what she does for a living. And she's sorry she couldn't switch on her video camera or mute herself because her baby is sleeping in the same room where she is connecting at. So thank you, Sulaika. That's a beautiful yeah, explanation of your connection to river. Maybe now, Kara, you can read Yelena's, and then I read Benjamin's.
Sure. Okay. So Yelena, I hope it's okay for you. Yelena's pronouns are she, her, and she comes from multiple rivers. So in Montenegro, she grew up on two rivers, the Ribnica and the Moracha. Her house is on the bank of the Ribnica, a small riverine that goes into Moracha. Sorry, you're welcome to type in the pronunciation if I'm butchering them. Okay, so both of these rivers were undisturbed by the time that she grew up. And Moracha, the biggest river, is still not dammed. These rivers were a central part of my childhood, and I feel connected to them weirdly, not because of the wildlife or rich biodiversity, but rather as a necessary part of her surroundings. And then I think the answers to the last questions are potentially coming. Yeah, well, there you go. And then maybe Jens, you can go to Benjamin.
Cool, then I read Benjamin. Also, if Sulaika, Benjamin, and Yelena want to answer the last question, which is how are river relationships different to other communities in your home? And also, there was this question, which is very important. How can we facilitate a more intersectional, inclusive approach to living a Bioblitz? You are welcome and also to think about that and answer it, but I will read for now Benjamin's. Comes from Mendoza, Argentina. They are at the Mendoza River Basin. It's a mountain river with two dams and valleys and dry areas with a great diversity of situations. It is formed by the mountain range of the Andes, La Cordillera de los Andes, between the Aconcagua Hills of 6,959 meters, almost a 7,000 meters mountain, which is, I think, the biggest of South America. These gaps are found inserted within the biological corridor of wetlands of the central west of Argentina. He knows very well where he lives at. They have been designated as a wetland of international importance due to their biodiversity, their conservation being the main objective for what has been declared a Ramsar site. Few protection actions have been executed since then. Some places with strong recreational tourist use, other agricultural sites, and other today forming deserts. So yeah, I also know that Mendoza has lots of environmental conflicts about water. So thank you, Benjamin, for your answer. And then we have people are writing down in the chat, I think. if you wanna speak for yourself, I understand if you cannot, because you cannot unmute yourself. So, but feel free to speak if you can. But I think Miguel also said he couldn't. So, Cara, if you want to read Miguel's, we're being like the locutors here. It has been becoming a podcast now.
Yeah, maybe we should pass some to Vera as well. But I can do this one, although my Portuguese.
Okay.
Vera, do you feel like going for Miguel?
I wonder just if Miguel is actually here and would be able to speak, because I think it's easy to write it in the chat now. No? Should I say it? Miguel?
Let's go.
Okay. So Miguel is organizing a Bioblitz for Corrego dos Colibris. It's a river that has a scientific importance to him. Part of the river is inside a protected area, and it is the place at his city with the highest number of amphibian species. I love going there to photograph species. People here have community crops. Oh, sorry, this is not easy. Yeah, suddenly reading some of this. People here have community crops on the margins of the river. There are people using it with religious purpose, also touristic interest. So that's definitely quite a few different relations to rivers there around. He thinks that to make the Bioblitz inclusive, he will have to communicate with the diverse organizations that are very connected to this river. So indeed acknowledging that he's got a scientific relation that probably easier to connect to all those that also have that relationship, no? But that there's diverse connections. Cool, thanks for your input.
Again, it's
Okay,
at
pass it
work,
to
so he
John.
cannot turn the video or audio. So
Yeah.
it's also, yeah. And then we have a Tom, but I think maybe John just turned on his camera, so maybe we can pass it on to him before we go to Tom who's in chat.
Sure. Yeah. And excuse any animal noises out here. I'm on the veranda here. So yeah, I'm good morning in North and South America. Yeah. So I'm Andy Kilmer, John Kilmer, he, him. I'm at the Crystal River in Florida. I just started working as a biologist, park biologist. But I have, as many people in this area have, recreated many times in the area. The river is an important fishery with many working seasonally to harvest fish and crabs and shellfish. After 100 years of heavy harvesting by local Floridians, the area still has quite a bit to offer. Before the Spanish arrived, my area was heavily utilized by several Native American groups. The occupants built a large shell mound and midden complex over the course of over 1,000 years out of oysters and shell from the river. So there's a lot of connection to this river, to the area. So.
Okay, you sound like also a great speaker. So I'm just going to throw out that last question for you. Also, John, like how would you facilitate a more intersectional, inclusive approach to a Bioblitz in your area? So
this is the first time I've done a Bioblitz, so I'm very new and very green, but I'd like to open it up more to the community in the future and really get the word out there with a variety of different means. I know not everybody has the cell phone that that I have to connect. So getting out there and doing a speaking arrangement to talk to people that maybe don't have that opportunity would be a good way to connect. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you,
Garrett, do you want to go for it? And then we can do Thon, and then I will go myself if.
Me about my own.
Yeah.
Bioblitz place, yeah. So I'm at the moment in Austria at Ache, which is close to Innsbruck, which is not my home river, but it is a river that I feel very connected to. And this connection definitely came from kayaking. So I'm a whitewater kayaker, and I visited the Ache, which is one of those rivers that is really quite impressive and difficult and therefore scary sometimes. And like, so there's a kind of love-fear relationship almost maybe. Which I then also see if I take it away from myself and see what the relationship for many people that live here with the river is actually one of like, stay away from it, it's dangerous. Don't get close to the Ache because it could kill you, but also could simply flood, and like we should tame it. And very clear example is that they've just built the first dam on this Otsala Ache, and we went to the opening of it, and there was a priest who was blessing the river and was very happy that God is helping us to tame the river, because in that way, I guess we have more prosperity from nature, something that direction. Either way, we're organizing in Bioblitz now to kind of show that there's also more species living in the river and around, and to kind of create more awareness about the whole positive side of the river, hopefully. But this whole danger relationship with the river is definitely a bit of a challenging one, I think. We were talking to a lady from like a teacher who wanted to bring children to the river as well for the Bioblitz, but she's really like, I don't actually know where to do this, because like try walking at the riverside and one step into the river, you know, like it's, so that's a challenging one to actually find a place where it's accessible enough, seeing this dangerous side and the fear of it. So that's a challenge, and a challenge for sure. Also, I think for us, the smartphone thing is not that big of a challenge, in the sense like everyone that lives here in Austria would have a smartphone, almost including the kids, and otherwise the teachers hasn't. But yeah, there's like trying to tame the river feeling that is so that people believe it's so deep that they even have a priest coming to the opening of a dam is quite shocking, and it's hard to relate to for me. So to really understand that, well, I don't know.
Yeah, that's
Thank
pretty
you,
cool.
Vera.
Thank you.
Should we go for Tom
Sure. Do you want
from
me to read?
Thailand? Yeah, do it if you want.
Okay. So my name is Tom. And they are from the Mai Klong River of, I'm so sorry. I get so shy with pronunciations because I'm just so afraid that I'll say them so wrong. So Kanchanaburi of Thailand. And the relationship to rivers has to do with freshwater fishes that are the main protein of Thai people. Many menus and biodiversity dishes from Thailand. You got your camera. You want to speak? Tom, you want to introduce yourself? You can see him out.
I cannot speak on the road. Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
I inconvenient to talk in the car on the road. So sorry.
All good. All good.
You hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Do you want me to continue reading?
Yeah.
Less stressful?
If continue reading.
Yeah, for sure. I'll do that. Okay, so many of the dishes are made from freshwater fishes in Thailand, which is one of the main proteins. And it seems that freshwater fishes are declining, many because of the threats, particularly dams, urbanization, and destruction of the wetlands and riparian forests. And the relationship to rivers different in their community is that their father is a farmer and hunt freshwater fishes, and during the rainy season, freshwater fishes are breeding on the floodplains and rice fields. And it seems that Tom's family really enjoyed the biodiversity of the different dishes and from the various freshwater fishes. I'm pitch-patting. And it seems that Tom's idea of being able to facilitate a more intersectional and inclusive Bioblitz would be to create a nature scavenging hunt for kids and biodiversity surveys for the youth. So I think the idea is being able to create like an intergenerational family Bioblitz, which is awesome. And I think family group birding, bug hunts for dragonflies, IDs, plant IDs, and freshwater fish IDs, which sounds awesome. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
I think we've gone through everybody.
Yeah,
Except-
I don't know if Antonio is there. And Carla, did already speak Carla? Antonio and Carla, I don't know if they presented themselves.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Carla, do you hear us?
Carla, ¿está ahí? ¿O
Okay.
Antonio? ¿Nos escuchan? I don't think.
Ah,
Yeah,
Carla.
she's there.
Okay, Carla,
¿Puede
if you
hablar, Carla?
okay.
Do you know
So
this
maybe
meme
Carla,
where
yeah.
there is this meme where the Zoom meetings are like asking your like ancestors like in the Ouija for information. Are you there?
Are you there?
We cannot hear you well.
You're on
What
mute.
is your message to us? We
Yeah.
invoke you, Carla. She's just
So right
listening.
now,
Okay, no worries. No worries,
okay.
Carla.
And
No
Carlos
worries,
is joined.
ancestor. Carlos, are you there, Carlos? We
Yes,
see
I
you,
am.
Carlos.
Running a little bit late.
Oh, whoa.
No worries, no worries.
From another dimension.
Okay, I'm gonna go, Carlos. We're answering questions. I've just put them back in the chat, and then you can go next, okay? You'll actually be the last one. Just so you know. Okay, so my name is Cara. My pronouns are she, her, and I am from the Spree River in Berlin. And my relationship to my home river has just been evolving over the last 5 years. Actually, this summer I started regularly swimming in it because actually the Spree is quite polluted, but I've moved to a place where you can dip into it. And what I have learned in the last year or two is that actually, so very few people actually swim in the Spree. And if you want to go swimming, you go in the surrounding wetlands and ponds. But actually, because outside of Berlin, you have a very strong white supremacist Nazi problem. So you actually have like a lot of spaces that are very, very unwelcoming to particular groups of people, especially people of color and queer folks. So what I've learned is that there's actually particular spots that are set for certain groups of people, especially like Black people of color in Germany, that go to certain spots so they avoid any type of violence or discrimination and feel safe in those spaces, and that they also only go in groups often to those places. So some big privilege of mine has been, as a German-speaking person of also German lineage, I feel that I have actually been able to go to these spaces. So actually a Bioblitz is actually the perfect sort of activity to be able to engage in with the river, because that, as soon as you go outside of Berlin, there's this risk or uncomfortability, which I feel is also very German. I feel it's, I know that some in the States, there's actually also this, but your skin color or your ethnicity and your religion here in Germany, in particular in Berlin, is very influenced on your access to experience these spaces, which I think is huge. I mean, I think that is a huge privilege. And so I think, yeah, just to share that, it's just very context dependent. And I think leading a Bioblitz, I think, is really important, just to like ask, what are people's needs, and also to go into groups and stick together. So yeah. Carlos, would you like to take a look at the questions?
Yeah, thank you so much, and I'm sorry for being late. I needed to drop kid at school, so okay, well, here I am. Well, thank you everyone, and thank you for letting me jump in. My name is Carlos Velasco. My pronouns are he, his. I'm not quite actually used to say that, but learning still on that. My relationship, my river, we have few rivers here. I live in Northeast Mexico, the city of Monterrey, and some of the rivers that we have is Rio Santa Catarina, Rio La Silla, some watershed like wetlands on another area nearby the city. And interesting that the relationship to my river is, I love biodiversity in my river. I really feel related to nature around them. But on the other hand, as I see the relationship of the surrounding community with this, which is the community, a big city, industrial city with nearly 6 million people, I see there is an unhealthy relationship from the community to the rivers. For many years, we've seen the rivers as free real estate land where you can develop pretty much anything. And we have also developed the belief that we can dump any trash, garbage on the rivers. That's still a huge problem, that we can colonize the river, deviate it, put some concrete on it. And we, even on healthy rivers, we just see them as some place that you go and bathe yourself and just like if it was like a swimming pool. So we don't see rivers actually as a source of water, as part of our quality of life areas that we depend on. We just see it as accessory, and sadly is that stuck pretty much on the mind of a lot of people. So the river Bioblitz, the home river Bioblitz, has this unique opportunity to bring people just on a specific date to be more aware of that. So how can I facilitate intersectional inclusivity on the home river Bioblitz? I think there's a lot of different understanding on that, since what you might see as inclusive, it like really different in Latin America, especially here in Mexico. I mean, we don't have I don't know, race issues that much, but we do have a lot of economic difference between the society. And that's a huge, usually nature activities are seen just for wealthy people or rich people, and people from different income areas is not like, okay, I can join there. So I think I will need to promote that, like an open, inclusive, even go visiting areas that you don't normally visit. And so that kind of segregated people could actually have the chance to join in. We still have a lot of, how do you say that, when we do not discuss about gender issues or that's still a largely untouched topic around here. And it's not just that, it's just like, if we're talking about women, that's another untouched area. I mean, you don't see a lot of girls or women joining in this kind of activity. Sometimes this is a little bit more towards men around here. So there's a lot of things that we could surely work on, and it's a long way for us still, I have to say. But good news is we're still open to talk about it around here, and we don't have that much guidance around here on those kind of topics. So I consider myself still on the learning path. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Carlos. I think you said a lot of really important stuff that I think also applies to all these contexts, that all of these different social categories, they mean different things, have different values, are completely formed differently in different parts of the world. But yeah, you sound like you can definitely facilitate that also in your Bioblitz. And I think we have Marcelo that joined, and Carla from the chat. And then I think we just like, I have just like one more slide, just like a couple of takeaways. So maybe Jens, you can read from the chat, and Marcelo, we will type in the questions again for you if you want to speak. Marcelo, yeah.
Marcelo, do you want to speak, or you prefer to write down in the chat if you cannot speak? I will start reading then Carla's or Marcelo, we don't know if he's there yet. So Carla is from the Rio Monclova. She didn't say if she's she, but I assume Carla is she, her. She lives really close from it, like 2 kilometers. They grew up hearing beautiful stories about the river, but now it's almost dry. Thank you, Carla. It comes back to life this month, now in September, and they have two big industries that are drying it. People has almost no relationship with the river, sadly. That's what they are trying to recreate, this connection to rivers. They invited people from all ages and are hoping older people will also join them so they can tell us about the past, and they are observing and trying to preserve the present, and children will do it in the future. There are some groups of scouts, kids that are interested in joining them. And she is sorry that she joined late. And where is the Rio Monclova, Carla? Which country? If you can write there down in the chat, will be nice. Mexico. Ah, perfect. Awesome. Coahuila. Gracias, Carla. Marcelo, you will be the, well, Antonio, we still don't know if you're there, Antonio. So we're just missing Marcelo and Antonio. Thank you, Carla. Marcelo? Okay, then you just go for it, Carla.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll just share just some last little takeaways, because we planned in for an hour and we're almost there, which usually we always go over. It's just like a couple of takeaways that I just sort of brainstormed, as well as from the Intersectional Environmentalism website that we can plug in. But just as a Home River Bioblitz leader, just like 3 sort of key things that we can potentially think about. And one is what Carlos also said is, what are the needs of the group? Who needs particular access, different transport? Who feels safe? What does my group need to feel safe? Is my interconnection stable? Can you hear me? Because I'm getting yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, another big one might be whose backyard am I entering? To be aware if you have a big group, just to, I mean, you probably all of you already know this, but just as sort of like a guide, like which territory am I going in? Is there, a level of respect or not? And also just understanding who has been most impacted by the health of this river, if it's threatened, if it's free flowing, just to kind of consider. Also, who's already done work? Who's already done a lot of conservation work in my home territory? Who's already been doing things for years, has been fighting for this for years? When we go into places and we're doing research or even just hiking, I think it's often just really important to if we decide to create some sort of statements, also just to reflect who has been doing this before, because often some of our voices can overpower others, and that's just a way to sort of reflect our own privilege. Often also, what history does this river have that's been erased, and how can we kind of uncover that? I think often, in the States in particular, and a lot of indigenous nations, a lot of that history has been removed, and when you go into a lot of the national parks, a lot of that history is just completely whitewashed. And so maybe that's also just like points of discussion when you go on your Bioblitz, you can kind of talk about that. And then the last is also, I think it was, who was it that talked about drinking beer at the end, also just asking for feedback, also maybe allowing others to take the lead. So at the end of the session, ask what people, not just, okay, what did you find, but also how, like, was there any issues? Was there any problems that, we need community, we need love, we need communication when we're out there to fight for rivers. It's not about just capturing all of the different biodiversity that we come across, but it's also about taking care of each other, taking care about the other species more than humans, and ourselves. So I think that's it. I will plug in a couple of different other resources in the chat. But if you have any other questions, or if there's any other comments, feel free. If not, Jens, you can take the floor and we can kind of develop this session up next time. Maybe differently.
Yeah, I think
maybe more.
we are on time. Of course, maybe from some of you, these concepts are not, maybe for some of you, they are well known, maybe for others, this is new, but the idea of this is facilitating the start of a conversation, of understanding that these issues are part of river conservation, and that we cannot talk and work nowadays at this moment in society about conservation without understanding that conservation is actually a very wide, very Western understanding from the world that segregates nature from humans, and also segregates privileges from non-privileges, and many times just ignores the power dynamics between the different communities that live by the river. Marcelo, do you want to say something? Oh, no, he.
I just
So basically,
that was me muting him because it
no
was.
worries, no worries. So basically, that's it. It's just the start of a conversation, and with all the problems that mean. Conversation means language. Language means understanding, and language at this moment, because we are such a big community from all around the world, is very hard. For example, I think an intersectional issue we have seen in the chat is, like we have many Spanish speakers, and we love speaking Spanish, and for us, it's many times hard to speak English, and many of us cannot speak English. Those who speak English and are native Spanish speakers normally come from more privileged families that were able to give the kids education where they learn a second language, or they had the opportunities in other ways. I think in Europe that's not the same. In Europe it's a bit more normal to speak English than in South America, for example, or Latin America. And I can imagine that is the same for maybe Sulaika in Malaysia, or Tom in Thailand. I believe also for us non-English native speakers is an issue that, of course, this is we can speak here in English, or else we couldn't understand each other. That's a cool thing, like this middle ground. But at the same time, we have to acknowledge that this is a privilege. And how can we keep going with this global community of river defenders that is inclusive, welcoming, and somehow we are able to join that bring people together. And at the same time, that's a kind of the thing with the organizer. Many times the organizers themselves can speak English at least a bit, and they communicate in their own language to the communities they work in. So yeah, that's something that we still have to talk so much about that. And Cara?
Yeah, no, I just want to say that I think everyone, if you're a leader of a Bioblitz, you have actually this power to hold the space, and everyone here knows their own home, they know their own context, they know their own hierarchies and how to hold space. So I think that's just so encouraging. Like, if we start being able to really, in our own circles, in our own Bioblitzes, be able to be more aware of what people's needs are, and not to reproduce certain exclusions, then I think we can really build a river conservation movement that is way more surrounded by justice and not by conservation. And that's, I think, really, at the end of the day, do we want to just conserve things and then erase other people's experiences or not? So yeah, Vera, Carlos, Anna, you guys have your cameras on. If there's any last words, go for it. No? Okay.
This camera off. I'm just really happy that the space is here, and I think it's really important to keep talking about this part of organizing the Bioblitz as well, and to keep challenging each other to think about those parts. I'm just in this conversation started thinking, like, who actually really lives in that style? Because I'm not from here. Am I missing groups? So yeah, let's keep this conversation an important one. Thanks, Cara and Jens, for doing this.
Okay.
Thank you all for being here, and also Cara for facilitating it. And also, we understand this is a safe. We try to make this a safe space, and that's the thing: making our Bioblitzes a safe space for our communities where people feel welcome and protected. Thank you all. Thank you for opening your stories, and see you in the next chat, which will be about storytelling with facilitated by Vera. So more information about that coming in an email and also the chat. Bye. Take care.
See
Have
you.
a very beautiful morning, midday, evening, wherever you are.
Adiós, amigos.